What does it take to become a Knights Templar, to become initiated into to become knighted?
Yeah, so usually, there's a couple different processes. One is they can go through a school, like we've set something up called the Templar Collegia, which people can apply to. They can begin studying, and it'll take them through the fundamental study we feel like they need to know before they're knighted. That's one option. But then there's other schools out there too, or traditions and fraternities, like Freemasonry is one. You have to apply. They usually do a background check on you, and they'll do an in-person investigation. The lodge itself will vote on whether to initiate you or not. Assuming they do vote for it, then you go through a system of having different degrees communicated to you or performed for you that contain information that has been passed down over the centuries, and you're expected to retain a certain level of understanding of what was in that degree before you can move on to the next one, ultimately culminating in you being knighted as a Templar. So there's different ways you can do it, but they're all working towards the same thing, and they're all passing on similar information in that regard.
You're grooming someone right now. Is there succession planning? I mean, you've got someone in under your wing.
Yeah, I have several people under my wing that I kind of keep an eye on, and try to prepare.
And how were you selected?
Well, that's a good question. I was brought into this work at a very young age, at like 8 years old, and I didn't always understand or appreciate the history or the weight of what was being preserved. It's almost like I was, because I was presented to it at a very young age, it was just always kind of a part of my life. And it wasn't until I started reaching college that I started like stepping back and going, wait a second, where's all this really coming from? And what's its utility, and who's really behind it? And then I started asking the right questions. And from there, then I started doing a lot of research on my own and doing a lot of presenting, and that just got noticed. There is it may sound strange to some, but there is a doctrine, if you will, within the Templar tradition that is very much open to the idea of reincarnation. There are certain tests that we do, almost like with the picking of the Dalai Lama. Certain things are presented, and if you have a knowledge of those things on a level that most people don't, it usually implies that you had experience with that before in a previous incarnation, and you were prepared to take on the work again. So something like that I had to go through, and I will say that within our teachings, we also very much believe that you can prepare for your next life. So, for example, the Grand Commander, who I was largely studied under, was a man by the name of Dr. Onslow Wilson. He very much believed that in the future it would become necessary for him to reincarnate in China in order to help ensure that Chinese-U.S. relations in the future would be stable, to try to keep us from going to war, for example. And so when he passed away, I have no doubt he probably reincarnated in China, mm-hmm. and is growing up in China right now. Mm-hmm. And at some point in my life, I might have the opportunity to reconnect with him, and I will know him when the time comes because of certain ways we've set up to do that.
Yeah, reincarnation has to be one of the healthiest belief systems that exists out there, because it forces us to, if we know we're coming back to this place,
Right.
then we're going to be
Responsible.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it from that regard, and the
Me too.
sense of just peace and calm, and the sense that it gives you that it's going to be okay, and that it's just a transition as opposed to an
Right.
end.
Yeah, it's like changing your clothes. One day you wear one outfit, next day take on a new outfit, or you drive a car until it wears out, and then you get a new car. You know?
I think maybe a good place to kind of start might be, well, first off, I guess, your family lineage, and maybe a bit. Your father was a Templar.
Sure.
You had a great grandfather 7 generations back that did some pretty important things.
Yeah. So my great grandfather 7 generations back was General Joseph Warren of the American Revolutionary War, and he was a Grand Commander of the Knights Templar, and he was very much involved in that process for planning the revolution. In fact, he planned the Boston Tea Party, so initiated Paul Revere, for example, and they used to work together, and he was very much committed to the mission of establishing this country as a free Templar state, is the way he put it. Templars have always tried to protect freedoms because they believe they are divinely within us already, and so that any government or governmental structure should be based on recognizing those inherent freedoms, having a soul, and from it devolving into tyranny. And so he was very much part of that. The Templar Order has always tried to set up laws and stuff that were based on that inner idea, which is why they were very much involved in the creation of the Magna Carta, for example. They also fought a number of revolutions to ensure people had rights, God-given rights. So he was very much a part of that, and he died during the Battle of Bunker Hill at the American Revolution, and that was his...
What year was that?
I would say it was like 1774, maybe, 75, something like that. It was just prior to, us becoming free. He became kind of a martyr of the Revolutionary War. And then going kind of forward is going down. So I have the Warren side of my family, and I have the Hogan side of my family. The Warrens, and that's why my name's Timothy Warren Hogan. But there's, for example, on the Warren side, my great-grandfather was one of the Grand Lecturers for the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania at one point in time, and he was also a Grand Commander within the Templar tradition. My grandfather, Hugh Warren, was had passed on all this tradition too, and he was involved in all this. He's kind of one of the people who really got me going with this in this life. And he taught metallurgy at Denver University, amongst other things. I mean, he was a very gifted person. And then on my father's side, my dad had gotten involved in it at a very early age. My grandfather, Howard Hogan, was also super involved in it. I have great-grandparents from Sweden who had been involved in it in Sweden, so like it was just like this total merge tradition from two different sides of the family who, and I'm the product of that. So
Love it. Cool. Yeah, I mean, we could, I think, go a bunch of different ways. Well, important to establish right off the bat would be the purpose or the mission of the Knights Templar.
Yeah, so the main purpose is, the main purpose of the Templar Order is twofold. One is to empower individuals to be full persons, physically, mentally, spiritually, and the recognition that the divine spark, whatever you want to call it, is within everybody. Some Templar traditions refer to it as the sacred flame. Some refer to it as, just the divine spark or the inner fire. But it's a part of that God consciousness that's within everybody. And that balance comes from being in touch with that. The outer laws are created to be in harmony with that. And if we do that on the inside, then we can also create an expression of it on the outside. So as within, so without type of deal.
So God is within us.
God is within us, and that you don't need a intermediary between you and God. You need to pay someone or bribe them or whatever to like get there, right? Just by going within yourself. And the secret to doing that is really, it's about attuning with your heart and your conscience. And if you listen to that inner voice, it's usually resonating with what's going on around you. Act in such a way that you bring the greatest consciousness, upliftment to everybody involved in the situation. That's what it's all about. So that's on the one hand. The other hand, the Templar Order has done research for 1,000 years now, looking back at the ancient past, and they've tried to preserve, and some not so even ancient, but they've tried to preserve important artifacts and knowledge that we feel has the potential to help guide humanity into the future, to the place where we've been in the past before it all collapsed.
So I had always thought that there was a connection, and maybe there is, this is more of a question, between Christianity and the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
And when I first, I actually got your name as a recommendation from one of the subscribers to my channel. And so,
Nice.
And so when I first saw you and started researching you, the first thing that came to my mind was the Crusaders.
Sure.
And
everyone does.
Yeah. But it's nothing like that. Nothing like that.
No, I mean, there were Crusaders. I mean, the Templars were established around the time of the Crusade, that the Crusaders would get out of control and would probably find artifacts and either destroy them or would turn them over to the church and they'd disappear. And so the order was created really as a means to go in and all that and to help secure
the artifacts
and get them out of there. And their doctrine, at no point were they ever traditional Roman Catholic like people think of with the Crusaders. I mean, the people who founded the Templar Order came from Gnostic background, and Hugh de Paynes, who was the first Grand Master of the Templars, he came from a Moorish Islamic background.
So no connection between that faith.
But unfortunately, when most people see a Templar Knight, that's what they think of. They think of, these were Crusaders. The Templar Order did get pulled into some of that a little bit just because they were in the territory. They were trying to protect pilgrims in the Holy Land. That was their stated purpose, a bit of a cover. But they protected all pilgrims in the Holy Land. If they saw a Muslim that was being abused by Christians, they protected him. It was being, abused by Muslims in the area. They protect the Jew. They thought that everybody had the right to worship as they choose, which is, something we find now with freedom of religion in the United States of America, but it's because Templars put that in there. That's what they've always been recognizing, with the belief that no matter what faith you come from, your faith is an extension of the culture that it came out of. But the root of those faiths usually came from a divine revelatory experience of somebody. And that divine revelatory experience is speaking to that inner connection to something bigger. And so it doesn't really matter the external form. What matters is that source.
And that's Gnosticism.
And that's Gnosticism, right.